When my sister told me I wasn't welcome at her wedding, I smiled, nodded, and pretended it didn't hurt. But inside, it felt like my heart had been ripped out and stomped on. She looked me right in the eyes and said, "You'll ruin my big day, Sophia. Just don't come." And the worst part? She said it so casually, like I wasn't even worth a second thought. What she didn't know was that I wasn't planning to fight her. Not then. I had something else in mind. Something she would never see coming. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Sophia, I'm 32 years old, and if you ask anyone in my family, they'll tell you I've always been the responsible one. The one who cleaned up messes, who kept the peace, who sacrificed so others could shine. Especially my little sister, Rachel. She's 28 now, but to me she'll always be that spoiled child who got everything she wanted while I stood in the background. Growing up, Rachel was the golden one, the pretty one, the funny one, the one everyone adored. She could bat her eyelashes and get out of any chore, while I scrubbed dishes until my hands cracked. When she failed a class in college, my parents begged me to tutor her. When she wanted to study abroad, they couldn't afford it, so I picked up extra shifts at work and gave her my savings. I told myself it was worth it. That's what sisters do, right? You give and give, even when nobody notices. But Rachel noticed. Oh, she noticed, just not in the way I hoped. Instead of gratitude, she treated my sacrifices like her entitlement. She'd brag to her friends, "Sophia's basically like my second mom. She'll fix anything for me." And I did. I fixed everything. I paid her phone bills when she forgot. I drove across town at 2 a.m. to pick her up when she was drunk. I even lent her money for her engagement ring because her fiancé, Brandon, couldn't afford the one she wanted. And yet, when the wedding planning started, Rachel made it crystal clear where I stood. At first, I thought maybe I'd be her maid of honor. After all, I was her sister and I had done everything for her. But instead, she chose her best friend, Chloe, a girl she'd known for just 4 years. I swallowed the disappointment and told myself it didn't matter. Then I thought maybe I'd at least be a bridesmaid. But no. Rachel announced her bridal party at dinner one night, and I wasn't on the list. She looked at me across the table, shrugged, and said, "I just don't think you'd fit the aesthetic." Fit the aesthetic? Like I was some old couch she didn't want in her perfect wedding photos. I laughed it off, made a joke about how I'd be in charge of catching the bouquet, but inside, I felt that familiar sting of being pushed aside, yet again. Still, I told myself it didn't matter. I'd show up, smile, and support her. That's what sisters do, right? Until one afternoon, just weeks before the wedding, Rachel cornered me in our parents' kitchen. She looked me up and down my simple jeans, my messy bun from work, and said, "Sophia, I think it's best if you just don't come. You'll ruin my big day. You'd make it awkward. It's not personal, you just don't belong." Don't belong. At my own sister's wedding. I stood there frozen, clutching the dish towel in my hand. My mouth opened, but no words came out. Rachel didn't even notice. She just tossed her hair, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and said thanks for understanding like I had already agreed. Then she walked out, humming to herself, not once looking back. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her words replaying in my head like a broken record. Don't belong. Ruin her big day. I thought about all the times I had stood in her shadow, smiling as she took the spotlight. All the birthdays I'd given up so she could have hers. All the hours I'd worked to make her dreams possible. And now, she wanted me erased completely. At first, I cried. Quiet, painful tears that soaked into my pillow. It wasn't just about the wedding, it was about every time she had made me feel small, invisible, unworthy. And it was about how I had let her. But somewhere between midnight and dawn, my tears dried, my chest stopped heaving, and a different kind of feeling began to rise in me. Not sadness, not shame, something sharper, resolve. For the first time in my life, I realized I didn't have to accept Rachel's version of me. I didn't have to play the role she had assigned, the plain, boring sister who didn't belong. I had a choice. And as the sun crept through my blinds, I made a promise to myself I wasn't going to ruin her wedding. I wasn't going to scream or make a scene. No, my revenge would be far sweeter. I was going to show up. And when I did, I would make sure Rachel remembered that day for the rest of her life, not because she looked perfect, but because I finally stepped out of her shadow. So I smiled the next time Rachel called, pretending like nothing had happened. I asked about her flowers, her cake, her honeymoon plans. I played the role of the supportive sister one last time. but deep inside, I was already planning. She thought she had erased me. She thought I was too weak to stand up. But Rachel was about to learn something she had never understood about me. I might bend. I might stay quiet. I might even cry, but I never, ever break. And this time, I was the one writing the story. The weeks leading up to Rachel's wedding were some of the strangest of my life. On the outside, everything looked normal. I still picked up her calls, still answered her endless texts about flowers and table settings, still nodded along when she bragged about how classy everything would be. But underneath that calm exterior, I was building something. Piece by piece, plan by plan, I was shaping my revenge. The beauty of it was simple. Rachel didn't suspect a thing. She thought she had already erased me, dismissed me like an old coat she'd grown tired of. And that was exactly what I wanted her to think. I started with myself. For years, I had been the plain sister. The one in jeans and flats, hair tied back in a quick bun, barely any makeup. That wasn't who I really was, it was just who Rachel allowed me to be. But now I wanted her to see me. Really see me. I booked an appointment with a stylist in the city, a woman my coworker had recommended. She looked me up and down when I walked in and said, "We're going to bring out the Sophia that's been hiding." For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't invisible. I sat in that chair for hours, my hair cut, colored, styled into something glamorous but sharp. My wardrobe got an overhaul too: sleek dresses, heels that clicked with power, makeup that highlighted my best features. When I looked at myself in the mirror afterward, I almost didn't recognize the woman staring back. Confident, beautiful, alive. And for the first time, I smiled, not the polite, quiet smile I always gave Rachel, but a real smile. One that said, "You're ready." Meanwhile, I learned everything I could about the wedding plans. Rachel, being Rachel, couldn't resist bragging. She sent me photos of the venue, an old cathedral with vaulted ceilings, chandeliers, and long wooden pews. She showed me her seating chart, laughing about how she was putting our cousins at the boring table in the back. She even let slip that Brandon's wealthy aunt was footing half the bill, which explained the extravagance. Every detail she shared with me became a piece of my plan. I wasn't going to crash her wedding like some bitter outsider. No, I was going to walk in with my head held high, prepared, elegant, and absolutely unforgettable. But it wasn't just about appearances. My revenge wasn't going to be shallow, it was going to cut where Rachel never expected: her reputation. Because the one thing my sister valued more than her relationship with Brandon, more than her friendship with Chloe, more than me, was how she looked to other people. Rachel lived for appearances. For the envy in her friends' eyes, for the whispers about how perfect her life was. That was her true weakness. And I knew exactly how to use it. See, Rachel had secrets. I'd kept them for her for years, thinking I was protecting her. But now, they were my weapons. Like the time she borrowed money from our parents' savings account in college and lied about it. Or how she once kissed one of Brandon's groomsmen, Ethan, at a party, months before she even met Brandon. I'd been the one she drunkenly confessed it to, swearing me to silence. And then there was the time she told Chloe, her maid of honor, that she only kept her around because she makes me look prettier by comparison. I never said a word. Until now. No, I wasn't going to stand up and ruin her vows. I wasn't going to scream or throw a drink like something out of a soap opera. My plan was more elegant than that. I started by reaching out to a few people. Quietly, carefully. I met Chloe for coffee under the pretense of catching up, and I casually mentioned Rachel's little comment. Chloe laughed at first, but I saw the way her smile faltered, the way her eyes darkened. She didn't say much, but I knew the seed had been planted. I also happened to run into Ethan completely by accident, of course at a bar where I knew he hung out. We chatted, and after a drink or two, I asked if he remembered that night years ago. His face went pale. He stammered something about it being a mistake, about how Brandon could never find out. I just smiled and told him his secret was safe with me. But the fear in his eyes told me that secret was already burning in his chest. And as for the money Rachel stole from our parents, let's just say I left a carefully worded note on Mom's desk one afternoon, with the exact date and amount. I didn't sign it. I didn't have to. My parents weren't fools, they'd connect the dots themselves. By the time the wedding week arrived, my plan was complete. Rachel's perfect little world was already starting to crack, even if she didn't see it yet. Chloe was colder to her than usual, Ethan avoided her calls, and our parents suddenly seemed distracted when she bragged about the wedding. Rachel chalked it up to stress. I knew better. On the morning of the wedding, I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting the deep emerald dress I had chosen. It hugged my figure in all the right places, the silk catching the light. My hair was styled in soft waves, my makeup flawless. For once, I didn't look like the shadow of my sister. I looked like someone who belonged in the spotlight. I slipped on my heels, grabbed the small silver clutch I had packed with precision, and took a deep breath. Today wasn't about vengeance in the loud, messy sense. It wasn't about destroying my sister in front of everyone. It was about one thing and one thing only: finally taking back my power. Rachel thought she had erased me from her wedding, from her life, from her story. But when I walked into that cathedral, every single person would see the truth. And Rachel? She would never forget the moment her invisible sister became the star of her perfect little day. I was ready. The cathedral was even grander than I expected. Crystal chandeliers glowed like stars above, casting light over rows of polished wooden pews filled with elegantly dressed guests. Soft music floated through the air as people murmured to one another, waiting for the ceremony to begin. I paused at the entrance for a moment, my emerald dress shimmering under the golden lights. I could feel every eye turn toward me. And for once, I didn't shrink back. I stood tall, shoulders back, and walked slowly down the aisle, letting the sound of my heels echo with purpose. Whispers started almost immediately. Heads tilted. People nudged each other. They were all thinking the same thing: who is she? I spotted Rachel at the front, standing with Chloe and the bridesmaids. When her eyes landed on me, her smile froze. She blinked once, twice, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. For a moment, she even looked threatened. Good. I found my seat halfway down, not too close to the front, but not hidden either. Close enough for her to see me every time she glanced down the aisle. The ceremony began, all pomp and performance. Rachel floated toward Brandon in a gown that sparkled with thousands of tiny beads, her veil trailing like a river of white. To everyone else, she looked like the perfect bride. To me, she looked like a liar hiding behind lace. I watched her say her vows, her voice soft and sweet. Brandon smiled at her like she hung the moon. And yet, as I sat there, I felt a strange calm, because I knew what was coming. It started small. Chloe, the maid of honor, looked distracted. When it came time to hand Rachel her bouquet, she hesitated, her jaw tight. Rachel shot her a glare, but Chloe didn't flinch. That little seed of doubt I had planted weeks ago was already blooming. Next came Ethan, standing just behind Brandon. His face was pale, his hands fidgeting. When the priest asked the infamous line, "If anyone knows a reason why these two should not be joined, speak now or forever hold your peace," Ethan's lips parted, just slightly. He didn't speak, but the tension was thick enough for everyone around him to notice. And then came my moment. The ceremony ended, and we all moved to the reception hall. It was lavish, decorated with white roses and golden candles, the kind of place meant for magazine spreads. Guests mingled, glasses of champagne clinking. Rachel thrived in this setting, moving from table to table like a queen, her laughter loud, her arm linked with Brandon's. I waited until the speeches. Rachel's father-in-law was midway through praising the perfect union when I slipped quietly to the stage. No one stopped me. Why would they? I looked like I belonged. When he stepped down, I picked up the microphone, my hand steady. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice clear. "My name is Sophia. I'm Rachel's sister." There were murmurs, a few claps. Rachel's smile looked plastered on her face. "I know I wasn't officially on the program tonight," I continued, my gaze locking with hers, "but since family is such a big part of a wedding, I thought it might be nice to share a few words." Rachel's eyes widened, her lips moving silently. "Don't you dare." I smiled sweetly. Growing up with Rachel, I learned a lot about appearances. About how some people will do anything to look perfect on the outside even if the inside tells a different story. A ripple of unease moved through the room. I didn't shout. I didn't rant. I simply told the truth. "Rachel has always been good at keeping secrets," I said, my voice calm but firm. "Like the time she kissed one of Brandon's groomsmen long before they ever got together. Or how she once told her best friend Chloe," I turned to her, "that she only kept you around because you made her look better by comparison." Gasps echoed through the hall. Chloe's face flushed red, her eyes burning into Rachel. Ethan looked like he wanted to disappear. "And of course," I added softly, "the money she once borrowed from our parents' savings account and never paid back. I'm sure Mom and Dad remember that." Rachel shot to her feet. "Stop it. This is my wedding." But it was too late. The damage was done. The room buzzed with whispers, Brandon's smile had vanished, and Chloe stormed off in tears. Ethan's face said everything Brandon needed to know. And my parents? They looked at Rachel with disappointment so heavy it could crush her. I placed the microphone back on the stand, turned to Rachel, and gave her the sweetest smile I could muster. "Congratulations, sis," I said. "May your marriage be built on more than appearances." Then I stepped off the stage, my head high, and walked through the stunned silence of the reception hall. Behind me, I heard Rachel's voice breaking, begging Brandon to believe her, insisting none of it mattered. But her pleas were swallowed by the weight of truth. I didn't need to see the fallout. I already knew. The cracks had turned into an earthquake. When I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt lighter than I had in years. For once, I wasn't the invisible sister. I wasn't the shadow. I was the one who held the power. Rachel thought she had erased me. Instead, she had written me into the most unforgettable chapter of her life. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. Before I end this story, let me ask you something. Have you ever been betrayed by a sibling you trusted? What did you do about it? Share your experience in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one.